Onto our NDTV campaign, the big impact when it comes to the street dog menace. The Supreme Court, it has directed that all the stray dogs in the Delhi and the NCR region, they are supposed to be picked up and housed in dedicated dog shelters. This is the Supreme Court's big order. The stray dogs must be shifted away from the residential localities, and any organization that blocks this exercise will face the strictest of action. The top court has come out with this significant order amid a rise in cases of dog bites and deaths due to rabies. And NDTV has been campaigning about the stray dog menace on the streets that has left children and the elderly persons injured and in some cases dead as well.
बात सच है, दिल्ली की जनता वर्षों से इस विषय पे परेशान है और सरकार, पिछली सरकारों ने जो किया और नगर निगम में जिस तरीके से काम चल रहा था, हम उन सब के ऊपर लगातार हमारी सरकार बनने के बाद से इन विषयों पे चर्चा करते हुए इसके समाधानों पे वर्कआउट कर ही रहे थे। इसमें माननीय कोर्ट ने जो आदेश दिया है वो भी हमारे लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। हमारा एक ही ध्येय है, दिल्ली की जनता को राहत देना।
All right, my colleagues Nupur Dogra and Ishika Verma, they join us to get us more on this. Nupur, to you first. Take us through the key observation by the Supreme Court.
Well, Osama, first of all, this was the first hearing in the suo motu case that the Supreme Court had initiated after a news report about increasing cases of rabies from dog bites. Now, in the very first hearing, in an unprecedented move, the Supreme Court has issued directions. It has said that the Delhi authorities, the NCR authorities, including Noida, Ghaziabad, Gurgaon, and other NCR colonies, basically, the authorities should make sure that all the street dogs are evacuated. They are shifted to a shelter home. And the Supreme Court said that it will not hear any intervention applications by any dog lovers or any organizations from the who are claiming to be from the any animal welfare side. So this is a very big move by the Supreme Court that in the very first hearing it has passed this direction that the Delhi and has in fact set a deadline, that is 8 weeks timeline for the Delhi government to come up with an action plan to designate shelter homes. To in fact, it also went on to say that if needs be, it must mobilize a force that will go on to rescue or catch these stray dogs from the streets, and they should be sterilized, they should be neutered, they should be vaccinated, and they should remain in the shelter homes. But in fact, there will be challenges for the Delhi government, because right now, what the current ABC rules were there in the place. So shelter homes were basically just for some time. So if a dog is affected, they used to go to shelter home, and according to the ABC rule, they used to be relocated. But today the Supreme Court said that this is an absurd rule, that you have to send the dog back to the same locality where you rescued it from. So calling this an absurd rule, the Supreme Court said that the authorities should make sure that once a dog enters the shelter home, it does not comes out. In fact, it asks the authorities to install CCTV cameras to monitor dogs in the shelter homes. And in fact, it has went on to say in the strictest of tone that if anyone tries to obstruct these directions from the top court, they would be found to be in contempt of court and can expect the strictest of orders from the top court.
Right. Let me also go across to Ishika Verma. Ishika, there is also the flip side to the argument. There are animal rights concerns, there are humane concerns when it comes to the relocation of these stray dogs. Are those shelters, are the existing shelters, capable enough to get all these dogs and take care of them? That is the question.
Well, yes, Osama, in fact, we have today seen that it is rather a big, big directions that have come from the Supreme Court, especially, after NDTV's campaign. And we have previously also spoken to the MCD, because remember, the MCD had formed a subcommittee over this issue, and they had planned on making shelter homes, to address this issue. So, in fact, their members also tell us that the existing shelter homes are not in a good condition. That is why, in fact, 1 month time, in fact, has been given, to the subcommittee to prepare this entire report and then to make sure, in fact, that shelter homes, in fact, are made so that, this problem can be addressed here. Now, apart from that, if we talk about the, today's order as well, the Chief Minister of Delhi, Rekha Gupta, has also in fact taken cognizance of this matter. She has said that whatever instructions have been given by the Supreme Court, the Delhi government is going to ensure that all of that is implemented in a planned manner. Also, in fact, saying that that Delhi government may also come up with a policy to address this issue, considering how serious this issue has gotten. Over to you.
Ishika Verma, thank you very much for getting us all those details, and Nupur Dogra for explaining the key highlights of that observation by the Supreme Court. In fact, let's also listen in to what Priyanka Chaturvedi had to say to my colleague Himanshu.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो निर्देश जारी किया है एमसीडी को, दूसरी सरकारी एजेंसियों को, स्ट्रे डॉग्स को लेकर आप कैसे देखते हैं उसको?
देखिए, स्ट्रे डॉग्स का जो चल रहा है, आपस में विवाद काफ़ी टाइम से चल रहा है, उसको लेकर सुप्रीम कोर्ट एक सोल्यूशन दिया है। पर एमसीडी से कोई पूछे कि वो उनके जो हाउसेस हैं वो कहाँ हैं, उनको स्टेज को रखने के लिए वो शेल्टर होम्स, हाउसेस जो भी हैं वो कहाँ हैं, तो आज स्टेज रास्तों पे क्यों दिखते हैं? क्योंकि जो काम बीएमसी को, वहाँ की म्यूनसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन को करना चाहिए, वो नाकामयाब रही है। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अब कोई ऑर्डर दिया है, मैं उम्मीद करती हूँ कि उसका पालन करेंगे, क्योंकि जो स्ट्रे डॉग्स हैं वो इसलिए हैं क्योंकि उनको इम्यूनाइजेशन भी नहीं हो रहा है, तो उसका भी ध्यान रखना होगा। तो आई वेलकम दिस, बट एट द सेम टाइम वी हैव टू बी कंसर्न कि उनकी जो जगह बोली है वो इन प्लेस है या नहीं।
रख रखाव ठीक से होना चाहिए।
बिल्कुल, रख रखाव ठीक से होना चाहिए। बहुत सारे एनिमल लवर्स हैं जो उनका ध्यान रखते हैं। मेरी खुद की बहन स्टे हैप्पी करके एक NGO चलाती है जो इन्हीं लोगों का ध्यान देती है, कुत्तों का ध्यान देती है। तो आई थिंक इसका ध्यान जो सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है वो भी ज़रूरी है।
We've seen that mobs of dogs that have been, in fact, have entered people's homes and bitten them and attacked. They've been reported to be having rabies as well. These stories have been reported by NDTV. We've also been running this campaign. Now, what we have been saying is that a solution is needed for this. We've, of course, roped in politicians, policymakers on this as well. The biggest NDTV impact so far is that the Supreme Court has taken note of all the reports, the news reports that have come forward of stray dog attacks, and now the Supreme Court is saying that the MCD official must round up all stray dogs. Remember, the Supreme Court is saying that not just sterilized or vaccinated dogs, any stray dog must be rounded up. Now, another important observation made by the Supreme Court, or an order, is to ignore all the rules that exist already. Now, what they're referring to is the ABC rule, or the Animal Birth Control 2023 rule that exists. What that rule says is that stray dogs cannot be relocated. Now, once they're sterilized, once they're vaccinated, they must be brought back to the original location where they were at, and they cannot be relocated, is what the ABC rule says. It prohibits the officials from relocating them, taking them to a different location, and also mass picking up of dogs is prohibited under this particular rule. The Supreme Court has now asked for this particular rule to be ignored, and has called it absurd as well, and said that those dog lovers or dog feeders who have an opposition or who try to restrict this action from taking place will be facing action and will be penalized if they do so. Remember, NDTV has been pushing for solutions for coexisting of stray dogs and humans as well, while taking note of the hazards of stray dogs. Remember, these stray dogs, they're in fact abandoned. They go hungry most of the time. Many of them are not sterilized and are therefore very aggressive and tend to then attack people. Most of the time, children and elderly are the ones who are victims to this. At this moment, Supreme Court has asked for all these dogs to be rounded up and sterilized and moved to a different location. That's the biggest decision, or the order, that the Supreme Court has given out. And remember, now the Delhi government has responded as well, where we're seeing that they have said that they are going to be ensuring that this action takes place. So it's yet to be seen how soon a solution can be brought about. NDTV as well has been pushing for a national shelter in many of these cities where stray dog menace continues.